Meeting to order. Roll call, please.
President Byrne,
Aye. Here.
Trustee Hebda,
Here.
Trustee Cook,
Here.
Trustee Marquardt,
Here.
Trustee Schultz,
Here.
Trustee Schwartz,
Here.
Trustee Williams.
Aye. Here.
All right, we have a quorum present. Will everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any citizens that wish to address the board tonight? Okay. First item is Village Manager Allison, the electric aggregation intergovernmental agreement.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, on the ballot, the March 20th primary, there is a question before residents of Vernon Hills, as well as our 6 neighbors to the south, regarding electric aggregation. And this, I just wanted to mention this to you and ask if you have any questions at this point. But on the 7th, I'll have for you an intergovernmental agreement, and that is between Vernon Hills, Palatine, Long Grove, Wheeling, Buffalo Grove, Lincolnshire, and Arlington Heights. The 7 of us. And as you know, we're going out for a bid process. What I'm asking for tonight is, and it'll be part of the IGA, the Intergovernmental Agreement, is the consultants' fees. And I guess I'd call it, we're trying to go consultant light. We want our group, and really Gita Newkirk, the Deputy Village Manager, and Buffalo Grove is heading the process. She's putting together RFP. We're going to have this consultant review it. We're going to have this consultant advise us on the bids, and there's some amount of process, and then also the follow through we need to do with Commonwealth Edison for our residents. So it's part of that entire process. So that'll be available for you, and I'd ask your concurrence in it on the 7th. But I just wanted to again alert everybody that that's coming up on the 7th, as well as the actual ballot initiative on the 20th of March. And again, I should say that is for these 7 communities to go out, bid on electricity for the supply side of it. You would receive that electricity through, if you don't opt out, and of course it's approved by the voters, you would receive the electricity supply from Commonwealth Edison, but it would be from some other supplier, the actual generation of the electricity. And I'm sure all our residents, or most of them, received solicitations at their homes from various places: Integris, Constellation Energy, Viridian. There's many of them, and we would certainly urge people, if they want to do that, that's fine. And they can do that right away and start to achieve some savings. And also I would refer everyone to our website to click on, and there's sites, CUBS, the Citizen Utility Board, has an excellent website talking about this whole process. So any questions or comments?
No, I don't see any lights, any lamps lit. Okay. Next is CN, EJ&E quiet zones.
Okay. I received several emails from our residents regarding the sounding of train horns. And in one sense, it's a good thing because we're all getting used to now quiet, which is good. But as you may recall, the connection between the EJ&E and the Canadian National, and as you know, EJ&E was purchased by the Canadian National, that upgrade, which is immediately west of the concrete plant on Butterfield Road, they're double tracking that and straightening out the tangent somewhat so they can operate trains, I believe, at 30 miles per hour. So there's quite a bit of utility work back there, and there's quite a bit of road bed, railroad bed work back there. So they're going to be working continuously through the 2012, and it'll be dusk to dawn. So just to alert people, they will be sounding train horns when they go through there if there are workers there. And then, as you know, there's also the wayside horns that are still operational at, as you go south to north, Allenson, 60, Butterfield. Now the good news is we just received something from our consultant, and this has to be, of course, approved by the Federal Railroad Administration, but we now meet the criteria, again, the application for the quiet zone on the Canadian National portion. We're fine on EJ&E. Canadian National, we're good on that also. And eventually, it's Mundelein's goal, and this is with removal of those wayside horns, because they're going to do the improvements that would allow them to do that. So that's going to take Mundelein some amount of time to do that. So there's really two distinctly different items I discussed, but it involves the two railroads. One, again, is the wayside horns removal in our quiet zone, and that's going to happen over probably the next year plus, and then the construction that's going on west of the concrete plant, which necessitates horn blowing at times from dawn to dusk. Shouldn't be in the middle of the night. So that's all I have.
Yeah, and you know, again, the explanation for the, I don't know, the warning caution paddles.
Right. That was to achieve a, they call it an ASM, an alternative safety measure, so that an individual does not go around the gate, use those paddles. Obviously, physically, your vehicle, you could drive over those, but it, you know, it's telling you do not go over the the middle stripe and go around down.
Yeah,
across,
don't go into the other lane of traffic that's
Right.
coming the other way
Right.
to go around a down gate because there's a train coming.
Right.
Yeah,
That's-
so it's again, one of those laws that actually goes to the absolute lowest IQ driving an automobile. I mean, it's unbelievable that you have to do that kind of stuff.
Well,
That
we
is
had, yeah, it just for, I mean, the only reason I'm bringing this up, so people understand, we
Right.
just didn't put those
No, no,
up. If
you're
we
right.
didn't put them up, they'd be blowing the hell out of their whistles.
We would have failed to achieve this quiet zone throughout the corridor from Antioch going down to
Right.
Wheeling. So,
So, because I mean, I used to like to sneak up the suicide lane, you know.
well, yeah.
Well, I mean, I admit to it, you know, crazy, everybody, you know, if there's a long line of traffic, I'm making a left into deer path, okay.
Right. It does
That was
al-
the complaints
yeah.
I got.
It does align you
Right.
where there's only queuing for several cars there. So
Right.
you're right. It used to be you could line up
Okay,
right
I
on
mean,
the
it's,
stripes.
you know,
But
it's not a bad thing, it's just, you know, you kinda, it is what it is, I guess. Okay. Next is, let's see, Route 45, open house, public hearing. That's got, what date are we doing that one?
February 7th, 5:30 to 8:30 at the Sullivan Center is the culmination of the Phase 1 study for Route 45. So it's an IDOT open house. We are inviting the public.
Sure.
That's why we wanted to make sure we brought it to your attention. We want to make sure people on camera also have an opportunity to attend. It's a public hearing for the people who are not aware of this. On Route 45 from Milwaukee Avenue west to 60, they're been doing a Phase 1 study. So they're near complete with it. This is really where they're going to present a couple of items. They're going to discuss the purpose and the need for the improvement. They're going to present the preferred alternative based on all the different input that they've heard from the various village boards and from the general public. And this is also to obtain public input on the preferred alternatives. So again, it's at the Sullivan Center. It's February 7th, 5:30 to 8:30. And people who attend will be able to review audiovisual presentation, review the exhibits, provide public comment, and meet with IDOT staff and the study team
Excuse me,
representatives.
I'm not laughing about that, I'm just, okay.
So,
I'm
and
just amusing myself over here with electronic devices.
I also wanted to point out to the village board that this is the same day as our scheduled board meeting. It does start at 5:30, so I just wanted to also share that with the board.
Well, and are we also gonna have, at some point after this public hearing, people are gonna have an opportunity to come and comment at a public hearing here, or committee of the whole meeting at some point?
Absolutely.
But we have the mailing list of the folks that live, up and down 45, especially in Centennial Crossings and, Stone Fence Farms, right? So
Yeah,
we can-
as you know, as Dave and I've talked, this on again, off again thing is the state doesn't have funding, I believe, Dave, even for phase 2 quite yet. So this is off in the horizon, but now's the time to comment. If you have
Right.
comments, we encourage residents to.
Yeah, Mike, that's a really good point. This is the end of the preliminary phase 1 that they figure out, traffic signals, geometrics, traffic volumes. So they're presenting this plan. The next phase is phase 2. They do have funding in place for phase 2, which is really the contract documents. They do not have money currently budgeted for right-of-way acquisition. And the larger project is really trying to come up with the funding and the actual construction. So please be aware, this isn't something that's imminent. They won't be out constructing this next year. They still, at a minimum, are 3 years out, should all the funding fall in place.
Yeah, and with that said, I mean, so we could potentially have a session here maybe in March?
I think we should do it shortly after the February 7th meeting, so it could be
So
the first
sometime in
meeting
February.
in March, or the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
meeting
yeah.
in February. And they can also, and they are encouraged to provide comments to IDOT in writing,
Right.
because it gets into the record, their voice is heard. IDOT's goal is to wrap up this study that has been going on for 5+ years.
And I just would say, to share with the board, I would certainly like some minutes or documentation of comments that have previously been, so we're not, I guess, deja vuing too much, because, and
Maybe-
I'll go on a record now, we're not moving any graves.
Absolutely.
Maybe Mayor, Dave, do you want to reflect a little bit? There's a big, long history on this, maybe for
Right.
everyone watching, just to mention, we've had IDOT here. That's not to preclude them from coming
Right.
again, but we've had IDOT here. They've already had several informational meetings, preliminary. Maybe Dave just mentioned it briefly.
Yeah, Mike, as Mike was sharing, they have been working on this for 5+ years. There has been open houses at the Sullivan Center. We have invited the general public in to our village board meetings and had presentations here. In fact, we invited IDOT representatives to be here to answer the
Right.
questions.
Right.
So there has been a lot of communication. We also receive emails and input and respond back to residents on what their concerns are. And the board has spent a lot of time sharing their comments, which we've worked with IDOT to make some changes specifically in the Centennial Crossing Stone Fence area to try to mitigate that. One of the important changes was originally IDOT had a plan to have a wide boulevard median down the center. The board's direction was, let's utilize that extra area in the median and the landscaping, eliminate that in the middle, and you'll have more buffer area on the sides. We understand on the cemetery side, there are pauper graves and other graves that are right up against the right-of-way.
Right.
And we are, the direction and my understanding, certainly, and in agreement, we are not going to relocate those graves. IDOT did anticipate that those graves were there when Centennial Crossing was built, asked for additional right-of-way, and so there is a larger buffer towards Centennial Crossing. So we were able to save a substantial amount of trees from the original plan by eliminating that median and listen to some of the input from our residents.
Excuse me. Okay, well, with that said, please alert those that, the homeowners association so they can attend the Sullivan Center hearing, so. Okay, any other comments on this, questions? Okay.
Not directly, but indirectly, you made mention of not moving any graves. I saw Julie out there today, Julie being joint underground, whatever it is, locating. They were by the street that leads to that flag post or property in the back along the river or along the creek, and of course those several houses just to the east of the cemetery. And I know that this connection between the Sylvan Lake sewer or lift station and the Vernon Hills treatment plant and or this lift station here on 45, they're coming to this side of 45, to the south side of 45, and he was doing a locate mark along the south side of 45. If we're concerned that there's graves with regard to this right-of-way, I don't know if anybody's ever used any ground penetrating radar or anything to ascertain what actually is in the right-of-way, but there's got to be some kind of existing right-of-way that Lake County is using to bury the sewer line, because I know it's coming to this side because we had to give an easement on the golf course.
Yes, sir, I can help with that. Really, the terminus heading towards the cemetery will be our golf course. By the clubhouse and that first tee box, they're connecting into the sewer there, and then it's going to be feeding by gravity across the road towards the CV. So it won't extend further towards the metro station. So
they're using existing lines that are already in place.
From the golf course, they're using existing
the
lines
south,
to get across.
south and east.
They are working as a future phase that they will extend a sanitary sewer all the way from 45 along the CV, going north along the CV towards Stone Fence Farm Bridge and towards Evergreen Lake. So that will be a later phase. So right now, they're taking the sewage and diverting that down Route 45 from 83 along here, and then it will cross at the old J&L gas station, connect into our golf course property, and then fall into an existing gravity that takes them across the street, and then there will be a future phase to take them along the sand.
All right, so I guess then the more pertinent question then really is, what was Julie doing out in front of the cemetery today? And why were they doing a locate that far east?
I would have to check our logs and find out.
I mean, it's not in our town,
Well,
right?
I'm guessing there was some paranormal, activities. What's that? I don't know. Well,
I can
Dave
only
could find out.
I can only
Yeah.
speculate on that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could call and find out why. Just more information, I guess, than
Absolutely.
maybe what's needed, but if we're talking about 45, we want to make sure we know what we're talking about there too.
Let us know what you find out, Dave. Let me know what you find out.
I will
Thank
report
you.
back.
Okay. I just lost some
Thank you.
things.
I keep losing.
Okay.
Going,
Come on.
Rhonda was going.
Okay, next is Next item is, the omnibus vote agenda. Is there a motion to approve items A through P?
So made.
I'd like to pull J though, separately.
All right, J,
First agrees.
okay. All right, J. Do we need anything else pulled for a separate vote?
Just a second though.
No, we're okay on that. Okay. First and second agrees, I don't think there was a second. Was there a second? No, okay. All right, is there a motion to approve items A through I, and then K through P?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, J has been pulled. Is there a motion to approve?
Just, I have a question on Jay, which I had talked with Michael earlier.
Well, yeah, let me, okay, well, I'll read it into the record what the resolution is. It's 2012-010, resolution authorizing a transfer within the fiscal year 2011-12 budget of $14,000 from the general purpose contingency account to the communications building maintenance service account in order to pay for increased building maintenance costs. Okay. All right, Trustee Markwart.
Only question I had is that in reading this, it had indicated that ComEd had a power failure, and due to this power failure, it affected, I guess, 2 of our HVAC systems and some lighting. My question was to Michael, if in fact, if this was ComEd's fault of it, how can we get paid from it? And I know that they have some rules and regulations, and Michael was going to be checking in on that. And that's why I'm just bringing it up, is that if they've caused the problem, I think they should be paying for it.
And what say staff to that one?
And I asked Peggy to talk to Dave. I don't know if we have any answer yet, but we'll have to really dig down into it. We'll have to check with ComEd. Again, they have, everything I've read, very limited liability relative to these kind of things. But we'll check it out.
Yes, our understanding is that one of the 3 phases did fail. It did impact and spike our building, causing some damages. Conversations with Peggy, she is investigating that. Her past experience with that has been, we haven't been successful in the past, but that's certainly something that we're having further conversations and investigating it from our side.
Thank you.
We'll let you know.
Basically, what, don't hold your breath?
Well, right. I guess it's the same analogy as when, you have these major power failures and there's food that goes to waste, restaurants lose business, the multitudes of potential claims, and Commonwealth Edison under the Illinois Commerce Commission rules usually is not typically liable. But we'll check it out. It really is it's a good reminder. We could take a look at it and dig down into it and see if there is some potential. Because this is a little different. It's not I don't think anyone's arguing it's an act of God or anything, so we'll take a look at it.
Okay, unfinished business
Well,
is,
we have to vote.
Oh,
Make a
you-
motion
okay.
to approve what was known as item J.
Second that motion.
here's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is approval of Kemper voucher list of bills dated January 24th, 2012, in the amount of $46,182.97.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Abstain.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Motion carries. B is approval of January 10th, 2012 Village Board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next item is 740 Corporate Woods Parkway, VHAA building. What's the update on this?
Thank you, Mr. President. The update is a lot of good news. The Cougars organization has made great strides in completing the items that were identified by the Lincolnshire Riverwoods Fire Protection District. The fire alarm was the first thing to get completed, tested, and approved, and that was about a month ago. Also, the inoperable exit signs and emergency lights have all been repaired. There's been additional emergency lights that were installed. A number of other miscellaneous items were also corrected. Today, the relocation of the fire sprinkler heads was completed and inspected and approved, and the fire extinguishers were approved. The only remaining item is the door hardware. That was about 50% complete when I left the facility today at about 3 o'clock. So it should be, if it's not done already, it should be done tomorrow morning. And the Fire Protection District is scheduled to go back to check that hardware tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So overall, the process went really well. Lincolnshire Riverwoods went out of their way to make sure inspectors were available for questions and to offer any assistance, and I think that really helped in keeping things running smoothly. So we anticipate that tomorrow after 1 o'clock's inspections, we'll have all the items completed and they'll be ready for their special event, which comes up on this Saturday, the 28th.
Okay, do we need a motion on this?
No, it was just intended as an update, and as the board recalls, the Liquor Commission approved the liquor license for this special event with the condition upon that these items be completed. And so it's just an update to let you know that they will be completed in advance of the event.
Okay. Is there any new business or communication come before the board? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the board meeting and go into committee of the whole?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Are we going into closed session tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, first item is approval of the January 10th, 2012 Committee of the Whole minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Comments, questions, corrections? If none, roll call.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Motion is approved. Swelco, 60% recycling plan presentation.
Thank you very much. Swelco's Executive Director, Walter Willis, is here to present the plan. You may remember Walter, he assisted us with other recycling and contracts previously, so I won't take up a lot of time. Walter?
Good evening. It's good to be here again. I'm here because we've been working very hard on a plan to help grow our recycling, and the Swelco Board of Directors felt it was important that each and every one of our members become familiar with the document and pass a resolution to either accept or approve it. We want you to make sure you understand what we're doing here, and because really where most of the work happens is at the local level, at the municipal level, and there are some recommendations. So I did provide a handout. I'll go through it very quickly. I know your time is valuable. I can talk garbage all night long, but most people can't. So, why was the task force formed? The last time we did our plan update in 2009, we started really focus on the fact that our 2 landfills have finite capacity, obviously. We'd like to make those landfills last longer, and recycling will definitely do that. We also are looking at what happens when our landfills close. Will we build new facilities, new innovative technologies to manage our waste in the county, or will we ship it out? If we do build something within the county, we'd like to minimize the size of that as much as possible through recycling. And then finally, as we've looked at our numbers the last several years, we've kind of plateaued at around 38, 39% recycling rate, and we'd like to get that to move a little bit, so we thought we needed to look at some ideas that we could put forward to our municipalities as well as the county, as well as SWALCO and our business community. The task force itself was a 27-member task force appointed by SWALCO and the Lake County Board. Very wide representation of that task force between the waste industry, the business community, the municipal government, environmental groups, et cetera. Worked very hard. We held 12 meetings. We met for over a year and came up with this document. This is actually twice the document, but it's not that big. It was thought that instead of trying to make tweaks to this document with all of our municipal members, that we would let this document stand on its own merits and then give you the opportunity to either approve or accept it. The planning approach, we've got recommendations for both residential, commercial, and our construction demolition debris. So those are all in the document. We're actually going to start looking at our disposal goals, and I'll get to that real quickly on the back sheet here of your handout. We want to try to reduce the amount that we're actually taking to the landfill and track that number, because we have a better way of tracking that than we do all the recycling activity. On the second page, there's just some metrics, if you will, on disposal rates in the county. Suffice it to say, we generate about 8.76 pounds per person per day. We recycle quite a bit of that, but we dispose of 4.8 pounds still. We'd like to drive that number down to 3.5 pounds by 2020 through increased recycling and diversion activities. The recommendations themselves, there's a total of 36. They broke down by the sectors as is outlined on the handout, and the 18 that are applicable to you are the ones that you're probably most concerned about and interested in. The plan itself, when we implement it, we continue to have a marriage between the public and private sector. This task force and SWALCO are a voice for some of the new ideas and helping help create a vision along with the private sector, but we rely on the private sector to implement our programs. We know we're going to need education. We're going to need to continue to do that. We would like to have your action on the resolution before our March 22nd meeting. We'd like to have all those done by that time and really start to kick off our education initiative. And again, the nuance there is, if you're totally in acceptance with all the recommendations as they stand, you would approve the document. If you have some concerns or reservations about some of the recommendations, you would vote to accept it. Now getting to the handout on the back, this is kind of a score sheet or a checklist that we have for all of our members. We're gonna put this on the website, and I want to make sure I have this correct. But suffice it to say, Vernon Hills is one of our more progressive members. Do a lot of great work with Dave and his group, with the Park District, with the township. You're now you have permanent drop-off for the Reuse program. We do all of our processing here with you guys now.
Permanent drop-off for what?
Reuse a shoe, use gym shoes. It's a big initiative that we do that gets community groups involved in the recycling, and they get used for tracks and some of the field turf that you see. The program you have with your events, your Vernon Hills Athletic Center is really the gold standard here in Lake County as far as having that type of recycling opportunities with all the sports activities that go on out there. The Recyclorama that we held out at the Hawthorne Mall, all the e-scrap collection programs that you're doing in this township between the Park District and the village and the township. You've collected over 100,000 pounds of e-scrap. We now know that 17 items are banned.
Where are the sites that are actually open every week to take the electronics?
We're getting more and more of those.
One in Wakanda?
There is.
And is that the closest one
Close, well,
to here?
I would say Highland Park is Tuesday and Friday year-round. That one's fairly
And what's
convenient.
Wakanda?
Wakanda is 5 days a week.
Right.
Vernon
Township does it on the
Township.
Saturdays.
Township does it.
Vernon Township, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
Vernon
closest one. What am I
Township's
thinking?
closest.
They've got a
Every
drop box.
Saturdays?
I
It's
don't
at
know
least
about
Monday
s-
through Friday.
It's Monday through Friday. And
Okay.
and I know that Dave is thinking about moving to an 8-month program, and trying that. We're trying to work, our program so that it's low cost, low effort for you, but we get a lot of material at the same time. We wanna make it easy for people.
What are you working on?
Basically, in discussions with the electronics ban, we're discussing and investigating, is there a possibility that we can offer electronics collection more frequently to our customers? Just in the investigation stage, talking to Mundelein, they do have not a year-round, but all year-round other than the winter season. So trying to learn more about their program, and potentially we could have that at our Public Works building. My fleet maintenance staff can assist with the collection. One good thing that this board did in cooperation with Swelco for electronics pickup, we are receiving a third of 6.4 cents for every pound of electronics we pick up. Not a lot of money, but we do get some money back for that.
What's more do we get from paper recycling?
I think we sent you about $500 this year for the, but ironically, the permanent sites are cheaper to operate than the big events you have on a weekend or something where you're paying overtime.
Right.
So, that's a real great thing that's going on. As far as money for recycling, in 2011, because of the great recycling that's going on and the relationship we have with the recycling facility where you get paid for your recyclables, we've sent you checks for almost $50,000 this year because of the recycling. So recycling does pay.
Well, this is way better than
It
the
is.
newspapers. You know, Grace, that was gonna pay for the whole recycling
Yeah.
when we did that many years ago now.
And you've still got a check coming.
50 grand, Grace, I like this guy already.
That's why I came up with those stats.
Is
People
that-
like
Yeah,
that.
well, yeah, you know, Grace, I'd like to, you know, that's a ray of sunshine, you know?
But again, to keep tooting your horn here, your recycling rate is about 35% with your residential waste. We have really good data on that. The one number that kind of sticks out, though, that I see some room for improvement is the number of pounds per household per year. We measure that. You're right around 560, and the Swelco average is 640. So that's 2010 information. I think with 2011, and bringing in
We're 500 a year?
560 pounds a household a year.
Wow.
Some towns do 1,000. So that tells us we can educate people more about their recycling opportunities here in Vernon Hills.
What, the largest container, what is the actual weight? If you really pack it, what can those actually take?
Oh,
The recycling bin in your garage?
I would say you're getting into 50 to 70 pounds, all in.
Probably.
If you don't have a lot of glass, if you have a lot of glass, you're going to get over 100 pounds.
Wow.
But the average household is setting out about 15 to 20 pounds a week.
Yeah, because probably, well, less and less people are getting newspapers too, right?
That too.
Yeah.
And everything's getting lighter. Our steel cans, our plastic bottles, all that.
Okay.
Now, as far as the ranking sheet, yes, you've got your carts. Yes, you provide the annual education. Yes, you have a pay-as-you-throw option because you have a limited option, and you give people the option of having a smaller can if they want and paying less. So, very progressive, and we're very happy about that. The other yes you have is you did bring your multifamilies, some of your multifamilies in under the last franchise. That was a pretty big step because that now is part of the volume that you're getting paid on. Before it necessarily wasn't. So you've done a lot of things to be positive with the residential recommendations. If you look at the top, your pounds per capita per day, that PCD is 1.5 pounds. That's the residential only. You're already below, you've met the 2015 goal. By 2020, we would like to get that number down to 1.35. Now, if you don't, there are mandatory provisions in the recommendations that have caused some of the municipalities a little heartburn. If you don't meet you've already met the 2015, if you continue to meet that recommendation that you would pass an ordinance mandating that people recycle would not apply to you. But if you don't meet that 1.35, in 2020, the recommendation is you would start to bundle in food scrap collection as part of the basic suite of services that people are offered here in Vernon Hills. Hard to believe that we're gonna start separating our food scrap, but over 150 communities in the United States already do. So it's kinda like 25 years ago when we were looking at curbside recycling, everybody's going, I don't know about that. But next thing you know, we're all doing it. As far as the business sector, we do know we need to focus more on your business sector. And there's a lot of things that we're looking at more about education, getting them aware of what they can do to recycle and reduce their costs. And finally, at the bottom, the supplemental programs, the e-scrap, you guys do an excellent job. The House of Chemical Waste, you host one every year for us. You help us with that. You actually have the Riverwoods Lincolnshire Fire Protection District, which was mentioned earlier. They host a satellite collection site. Any member of Vernon Hills, any resident of Vernon Hills is encouraged to use that facility instead of driving all the way to Gurnee. That's open every other Saturday, and we actually need to get more people to use that. So with that.
So that's for e-scrap?
Pardon?
It's for
Household chemical waste.
Household chemical waste. They take
So
used
not-
oil.
No e-scrap?
No, not at the Fire Protection District.
Okay.
So I'll take questions. I know I went through that quickly.
One question I've got is concerning the long-term strategy. I know that at one point in time, Swalco kind of put out their trial balloon concerning a burning plant to take the waste and burn it. I know that the nattering nabobs of negativity, if I can borrow from Spiro, really came out in full force against that. And I was just curious, is the technology there to do it safely? Do people do it safely? It's my understanding Japan does it all over the place. Didn't Chicago build a plant on the south side, but did that ever become operational?
That was in Robbins, Wheelabrator, no.
It did not become operational.
No. That was a biggie.
Yeah,
I don't know, the state kind of backed out of the funding.
right.
Yeah, they lost their retail rate. They actually did operate for a while, but they had to shut down.
Well, they were gonna try to generate electricity out of there, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So what is the status of that, and is it?
Well, you are correct. Whenever you talk about incinerating waste, there are some people that get a little nervous, upset about that. We did try to get that in the plan last time as an option. We want to compare that to what we're currently doing, which is landfilling it, and landfilling does create pollution in and of itself. So, you know, what's less? We were arguing that if we can do it with a less environmental impact with criteria pollutants and greenhouse gases, we should be going that way. The technology is getting interesting because what they're doing now is instead of having a stack at these plants, and because when they gasify, that's really where things are going. Instead of just igniting the waste, you do it without the oxygen and you just basically char it. And you create a syngas, and you can take that syngas and catalyze it into a fuel and actually make ethanol with it. And those are the types of plants that we're starting to see. I am getting interested in. They're building a couple commercial scale plants, one in Canada, one in Mississippi. And that's the technology that we're watching closely because the biggest opposition that we had to a mass burn or a gasification plant was the stack. If we put it in our vehicles and let it go out our tailpipe, people aren't as concerned about that. They probably should be, but they're not. So there is hope there, and that's why, to be honest, that's the big push from the environmental community was before you start looking at building these big capital-intensive plants, make sure you cut down on what we have to take.
Do we have any transfer stations?
We do not.
Why?
Before 2009, our plan did not allow it.
Yeah.
We opened that up in our plan the last time around, but to be honest, with 2 in-county landfills, there's not a need for a transfer station, kind of like the city of Chicago's got over 50 of them in Cook County, because they ship all their garbage out.
Yeah.
So that's the key. Is
But we got, what, 10 years left in this one?
Yeah.
Which one you referencing, the one at 83?
They're both,
In Zion.
the one on 83 is the Countryside landfill owned by Waste Management. It has about 10 years, and the one in Zion has about 14. So that's
So then that's when we'll be setting up transfer stations?
What's happening now is, some companies are looking at transfer station options. But right now, it's really cheaper to take it to the in-county landfills, but
Well, yeah, I understand that part, I'm just curious.
they're, either they will come and we'll ship it out, or we will look at having a in-county solution. to
Well,
it.
where's the, is there landfills like in DeKalb County or, where,
There is.
yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Lee County, that's out by Dixon.
And what kind of capacities, if we, if you had to transfer it.
There is quite a bit of
Is it all
capacity.
within 50 miles?
There is quite a bit of capacity. There's one in down Newton County, which is south of Lake County,
Yeah.
Indiana.
Right.
It takes a lot of Chicagoland garbage. Livingston County, so they're all out in the rural areas.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, any comments or questions for the board on this? If not, okay, well, thanks for coming in and updating us and keep those checks coming.
I appreciate you guys giving me the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next, Old Navy, for approval of facade renovation at their store in, Market Square. Mike, you gonna speak to this one?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the Old Navy, it'll be the one that's currently located in Marketplace, will be relocated to River Tree
Is there
Shopping Center.
anybody here from?
Yeah,
Old
they're,
Navy?
they're here. There's
All 5 of you guys?
just
No, just two? No time like the present. You got 3 minutes, we gotta get out of here.
I can make this real brief for the board. The store again will be located where Michael's just moved out of.
Where would my?
They'd occupy about 2/3 of the space of that store. The new design would square off the shape of the existing entrance canopy, which would also include the removal of the center masonry column. The parapet would be slightly raised to a height of 30 feet. The existing windows would be replaced with brick, and there would be split-face CMUs placed at the base of the wall. The brick and the CMUs would match that of the existing center. Finally, the main entrance would be centered under the reshaped canopy. A copy of the drawings showing the proposed elevations, along with pictures showing what the existing facade looks like, are attached to your packet. And for tonight's meeting, if the committee feels that the facade renovations are appropriate, then staff should be directed to prepare an ordinance approving the changes subject to the conditions outlined in your packet. And again, the petitioners are here to answer any questions you may have.
We've got technical problems here, just a minute.
No, it's okay, I'm, okay. Are there any comments or questions from, the board on this one? Okay,
Have we heard anything on what's replacing them?
thanks. All right. What's that?
I just wonder if we heard anything on, since they're moving.
Oh, yeah. How big is the sign?
How big is the store?
Sign.
Oh, the sign dimensions are not given on these elevations. The sign code would require that the sign be no larger than 1 square foot per linear foot of tenant frontage. I have not received a request or talked about their intention for a variation, so my understanding is they'll comply with our size requirements.
Same, pardon me, I'm talking about same type of sign that you already have, basically. I mean, you're not changing the sign.
Well, yeah, this whole building is what, is it 10,000 square feet or is it 7,500?
14.
Yeah, both, we're Blockbuster and then the,
Right.
cell phone, what was it, AT&T's there?
Excuse me.
No,
Who's in there?
that's,
That's the next one.
that's,
Next agenda
Yeah,
item.
Oh, did I-
they're next to Best Buy.
this is.
Okay, I apologize. Yeah, I'm-
Best Buy
Michael's,
and
okay.
next to you.
Best Buy, Michael's was next to Best Buy.
Right.
Just moved to the corner.
They're going to the corner
Right,
and
they
you've got you guys and then there's Best Buy on your side and on the other side is
They took
the
the
Hallmark.
It's gonna be vacant for
Everybody's
now, then the
switching
Hallmark's right
spots
next
over
to it.
there.
Okay. I mean, staff, is there any reason not to grant this?
No, staff believes the design is architectural compatible with that of the center, and so it's our recommendation to approve it.
Okay. Was there a motion to approve? Well, go ahead.
I do have
Trustee Hebda.
Your signage, there's this whole massive white background. Is there a way to adjust that? To just,
We're actually reusing the existing entry feature that Michael's currently uses, is just modifying it to kind of complement the Old Navy's, I guess,
Logos.
branding. Their branding image. It's kind of their look that they're trying to develop.
so is that backlit at night then, or what's that gonna do? Like,
Yeah, there'll be some like hidden cove lighting top bottom that'll light the back of the white of
the white.
yeah.
But mostly what'll stand out is the internally illuminated sign.
Right.
I just wanna go back and see Michael's. Cause see, Michael's is on brick. Okay.
They do have the white faces between.
They do have the white faces, but yours is all white on a, I just wonder why you wouldn't do brick, fill it in with a little more brick.
It's basically Old Navy's branding. They actually would prefer for the whole thing to be EFIS and white.
Right, cause it's cheaper too, right? Right?
But we were able to get them to
Right.
compromise to what you currently see in front of you.
Just a lot of white on a.
Yeah, it's most similar, if you, I don't know if you had a chance to look at where the new Michael's is in the corner. There was some facade changes related to that store, and that one has,
I'm sorry,
more,
repeat that?
where the Michael's relocated,
Yeah,
the facade changes there have more ephes than brick. So it would relate to that part of the center. Most of the other elevations do have more brick than ephes.
right.
But, you know, if that helps give you some.
Doesn't help me, but I just, oh, I know, the name doesn't stick out. The name's gonna show up very well, I'm sure. So. Well, that could be just from this chair. Other people may not have a problem with it.
Okay,
I have another
yeah, Trustee Williams.
I finally found my notes on my new toy here. What size lettering is the Old Navy portion of the sign? The letters themselves.
I think the way that we're showing it, it's actually an oval sign.
I don't care about the sign, I'm talking about the letter,
The letter.
or the old,
Oh, in it? Oh.
the letter themselves. How big are they?
Maybe 3 feet at the most.
I'm sorry?
Maybe 3 feet at the most. I'm not sure. I mean, they're coming in for their own sign package when they come in for their own.
Compare it to Dick's. How big are those
Oh,
letters?
no, they won't be as
Oh,
big as
it'll be
Dick's.
way smaller than Dick's.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what might help is if you looked at the previous page that shows the existing Michael's sign,
Yeah,
the old Michael's had a wider
Previous
tenant
page.
frontage.
Wait, I gotta find a
go
previous
back
page.
one, Barb, and then you
Yeah, I got it.
So if you look at that Michael's sign, the Old Navy sign will be something smaller than that, because the old Michael's had a wider tenant frontage than what the Old Navy store will have. So you can look at the Michael's sign and then picture the Old Navy sign, something smaller than that. And the sign code would require that we measure it drawing a rectangle around the extreme outer limits of the sign. So even though it's shaped like an oval, our sign code would require that we calculate the square footage as a rectangle. So this Old Navy sign is gonna look definitely smaller than what we're used to seeing at that location.
That's good. Smaller is better. Good, thank you.
Yeah. Well, what kind of a variance is it gonna call for? You know, is there any variance gonna be called for?
No, unless something changes, my understanding is that Old Navy's intention is to comply with the sign code.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions? a motion to approve the request from Old Navy for approval of facade renovation at 701 North Milwaukee Avenue, Suite 164?
So made. Second.
Motion and second, comments or questions? If none, roll call, please.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is consideration report and recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding a request for approval to amend the final building elevations for a portion of the building formerly occupied by Blockbuster Video, Verizon Wireless. The new use will allow a restaurant called, is it Payway?
Payway.
Payway Asian Diner to be located at 701 North Milwaukee Avenue, Suite 366.
Thank you, Your Honor. Clark Commercial Development, Payway Asian Diner, and River Toury at Vernon Hills LLC appeared before the Planning and Zoning Commission at its January 18th meeting to present a request for approval to amend the approved building elevations for the existing building, which is formerly known as the Verizon Wireless Blockbuster Building, at the corner, or at 701 North Milwaukee Avenue. The first petition, and this is one of two for this existing building, relates to Suite 366 and would allow Payway Asian Diner to locate within this suite itself. In your packet is a copy of the plans relating to the facade improvements for that location. Basically what they're doing is creating an entrance feature on the southwest corner of the building. Also adding new windows in that area, canopies over the entrance itself. And then also in your packet is a copy of the floor plan for the restaurant. As a part of this project, and we'll talk about this as a part of the second item for your consideration, there's also a new trash enclosure that's going to be constructed on the east side of the building in an existing unused service drive. That enclosure will be used to serve not only the Payway restaurant, but also two other spaces that will be created in the building itself. Commission members all expressed support for this petition and felt very comfortable with what was proposed as shown in your packet. And therefore the commission voted unanimously 5-0 to recommend approval to amend the approved building elevations for Payway Asian Diner and the property formerly occupied by Blockbuster Video, Verizon Wireless for Suite 366, subject to the conditions A, B, and C in your packet. If you feel it's appropriate, it would be staff's recommendation to direct us to prepare the necessary ordinance granting the approval to amend the approved building elevations subject to those conditions set forth.
Yeah, and you know, again, I mean, this is, I'm probably remiss, and we probably already let it lapse. There's no, do we still have any type of moratorium whatsoever in the district that was set aside?
Right.
And I'm just wondering, the restaurant, you know, I can live with it, but what I'm saying is that the other two uses.
The building is less than 20,000 square feet, so it's exempt from the ordinance requirements.
Okay.
There is no moratorium, also just as a part of that, so.
Unless we see fit at some appropriate time.
Exactly.
Okay. So, but this is, because of the size of this building, it wouldn't apply anyway?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Again, unless you chose to amend the ordinance to bring in any buildings under 20,000 square feet, which we would not recommend.
I agree. Okay. Trustee Schultz.
What's the status of Clark Street Sports?
I believe they're out now. They were a temporary use. I mean, the owner of the building is here, Joel Rosenstein.
Clark Street Sports is a temporary tenant that occupied on November 6th. They have continued to their tenancy on a month-to-month basis. We are, depending on how things go this evening, we will discuss with them a permanent location and a portion of the remaining space.
Didn't you just do this?
Well, is there, do you have anybody then for the remaining space. I mean,
Not-
one of the things about Clark Street was they didn't have enough product for the space they had there anyway. I mean,
They're looking at taking a space roughly half of what they're currently occupying. Their typical template is about 3,000 feet.
Well, that's what I'm
They
saying.
simply, being a short-term tenant, they relocated out of the mall, out of
Right.
Hawthorne, and took the space that was available as is. We wouldn't anticipate them taking more than 3,000 to 4,000 feet.
How much is left of that side of the building when this comes into effect?
3,000. And the portion of the Verizon space that is remaining is about 4,500.
And you don't know if Clark's gonna stay in the,
They'd like to stay if we can work out economics.
Is
Which
this Mike
space-
in?
Yeah,
Oh, is it?
he
Okay.
just speaks softly.
Sorry, which
Oh,
space
okay.
they take,
Yeah.
it's undetermined, it really depends on the economics.
any other thoughts to the old Verizon?
We've had a lot of conversations, we've discussed with a number of retail users, we have a couple of letters of intent that have been, are in different stages, but we don't have anything on paper, anything we can take to the bank at this point.
How does parking, how is this parked? I mean, I got it in the,
Yep.
in the planning and zoning, they talked about that, and it looks dramatically underparked.
Well, remember that the parking requirements are applied based on the annexation agreement for River Tree.
Right.
And for instance, for the restaurant, it's 1 per 3 seats versus 1 per 2, and it does not count employees, wherein the current zoning ordinance would say 1 space for every 2 employees.
But employees could cross-park in the big lot to the east.
They could, and Joel, maybe you will touch on that.
We've had conversations with Inland Realty for a non-exclusive easement agreement allowing us use of up to 43 parking spaces in the River Tree Court Shopping Center for employee and overflow parking. Based on the current plan, if we were to put a restaurant or some other food user in a portion of the remaining space and 4,500 square feet of typical retail, the most additional spaces we could require would be up to 19. 17, and we've requested up to 19. Inland has indicated that they would be willing to grant such approval or such an easement, providing we come to agreeable terms with them, and that the future uses don't violate any of their restrictive covenants within our over
I
property.
had trouble finding on the plans, what's the total number of spaces for this whole building? in that
49.
perimeter?
They're
49.
currently 49.
And you're gonna seat how many at this restaurant?
70 seats.
Just wanna make sure my numbers are right.
John Jacobs with Becker Architects. The restaurant itself has 66 interior seats, which would require 22 of the 49 spaces.
So who are you dealing with at Inland on the cross easement agreement?
Pam Daniels and Scott Carr.
All right. Okay.
They're really waiting for, they've indicated that there's not a problem, they're willing to grant it. They'll want us to pay a prorated portion of the maintenance for that area of the parking lot, but they won't grant us final approval until we have a final plan for them, which we hope to have this evening. And then once we can tell them who a future tenant is, they'll grant us a use for that tenant or not.
And this is a franchise?
No, it's corporate owned by
PF.
PF China. Oh,
What is it?
PF Chang.
PF Chang's China Bistro is the corporate parent of Payway.
Okay.
How similar is this to a PF Chang?
I'm Brad Federico. I do the real estate site selection for Payway. Payway was developed and it's owned and operated by PF Chang's. It's similar in the sense that they both serve Asian cuisine, but we're typically about 3,000 square feet, where PF Chang's is north of 7,000 square feet. Our price point is lower. Our ticket times are faster. About 40% of Payway sales come from takeout business, which is typically different with PF Chang's. So it was sort of PF Chang's developed the concept to fit into the smaller, more fast casual restaurant segment.
Does PF Chang ever locate in the same community they have a Payway?
Typically, but usually different types of sites, meaning PF Chang.
I understand that, I'm just, they're on my short list of people I'd like to see come to town.
Yeah, there are areas where PF Chang's and Payway are very closely located.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
And to direct the staff to prepare the necessary ordinance.
So made.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
And just let P.F. Chang know, we may have some site they might like in town.
Yeah, hopefully.
Where's the
someday.
headquarters for your company?
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thanks.
Joel.
Okay, next is Police Department Building Modification for Telecommunications.
Well,
I think there's 2 points. One, we've just given them approval for what, the elevations?
for Payway, right.
Right, and now we need
Oh,
for the landowner, the site use.
Yeah, the remainder of the building and the landscape.
Oh, yeah, well, you better come back then. Yeah, that's right, I'm getting a little jumpy here.
It's item number 5.
Okay, you gonna take this one?
I can, I'm sorry. The second item is is a consideration to amend the approved elevations for the remainder of the building, along with the approved landscape plans for the property, excluding the Payway site. And basically what they're doing with the building is that there's a garage door on the north side that's gonna be replaced with a couple of storefront doors. And until somebody occupies that space, that's the way it will go in. With regards to the landscape plan, they're gonna supplement the existing landscaping that's out there and which was refreshed and revised about 5 years ago. They're also gonna add plant materials to screen the waste or trash enclosure on the east side of the building. And then finally, the trash enclosure itself is gonna be constructed, masonry construction, 7 feet tall. And will be used to service the entire building, not only for trash, but also for grease related to the restaurant. Plan Commission reviewed it, unanimously recommended approval, subject to conditions A through F. The one condition to point out, and they are aware of this, that the Commission also recommended that the total number of spaces inside the building be limited to a maximum of 3. And they're aware of that, and
Yes, I assume that if we, for some reason down the road, we desired to put 4 spaces in, we could appear before the commission again.
you can come back, right. That is, and again, part of it went back to the concern about parking, and this was a way for the commission to try to be able to address that. They also encouraged him to continue on with his discussions with Inland related to the cross-parking agreement. We'll look at that in terms of any occupancies in the future, and if he has a problem, we'll have to say, you gotta get it solved before we can issue a building permit, so. They unanimously recommended approval, and if you so choose, the same motion would be to direct the staff to prepare the necessary ordinance granting said approvals, subject to conditions A through F.
So made.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If no further comments or questions, roll call.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Got a target date? for
Motion
opening?
carries.
I think we're, last talk was somewhere around July for a tenant opening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Whoever. All right, next is Police Department Building Modifications for Telecommunications. Chief?
Well, both of us
Tag
are
team.
handling this.
Okay.
We, both Mark and I talked to Scott Hesner, who did the planning work at our communication facility. And we're proposing using Scott, his firm Hesner Corporation, to do, as outlined in that proposal, some planning work and layout to redesign the entrance, and as just to conceptualize, as you enter the building, the communications portion, on your left-hand side, of course, is the telecommunicators. On your right-hand side is now a glass with a counter and back, and it's our interest to modify that to put at least, I think it's probably ultimately 3 positions, 2 manned, so to speak, staffed on that right side for records use. So to move the records people out, and this is contingent on us solidifying the intergovernmental agreement with Libertyville, which looks, it's pretty close to being there. It's just Libertyville has not formally approved it, so we're just waiting on that. But we wanted to get going on this because, as the chief we've talked to several times, there's month, 2, 3 months lead time on different equipment, and we wanted to get this at least planned. So it's $2,500, and we wanted to alert you to it. And there's nothing you have to do to approve it. We can find them money in the budget. I just wanted to talk to you about it, see if there's any questions at this time. We're going to do fairly minor modifications.
So, Chief, do we gotta do this?
Yeah, essentially what's happened is in the communications center where it is today, we have our records section in there. There's 2 records personnel, 2 desks.
Yeah.
The space where those desks are physically located need to be turned into 2 dispatching terminals to cover Libertyville Police and Fire. So we have to move the records section out of communications, and the easiest way to do that is across the hall into what is kind of like a ready-made reception area. We just need to modify the reception area a little bit, put a counter in there, and make it a little more secure for the people working in records. So now when people come in, instead of walking up to the communications window, they'll walk up to the records window.
And this is gonna cost how much?
We don't know. It's $2,500 to have Hesner do the architectural work, the drawings, et cetera,
Right.
and for all their consulting services.
We just want to make sure, go through any HVAC, electrical. I don't think there's any plumbing anywhere near there, but just to make sure it's done correctly, make sure we do things correct according to code, door swings, all that kind of stuff.
You know, it's our conception anyway, when we ran through it, that we would have to build about an 8-foot partition wall, non-load bearing, and add 1 doorway in and modify one of the window structures between 2 steel beams. Not as, at least in our estimation at this point, not a large endeavor at all.
And he would secure prices. It would be a GC at risk, probably that structure we do. And as you know, we need to pay prevailing wage and need to, so I can see by the look on some of you, I agree, this is a little bit much, and the chief and I agree, but we need to have a structure and to bid it out. And so that's why we need to do a little more planning than, you wouldn't do this at your house, let's put it that way.
Right. That's for sure.
Well,
We do it at about 11 o'clock at night.
yeah, okay, well.
Well, you'd get a permit
Trustee
first,
Schultz?
chief, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I have no problem with it. I understand where you're going, what you're trying to do. My only question is, we had potential for other opportunities to grow this business. Do we need to accommodate that now, or would it
No,
make
this,
sense?
this will accommodate a certain amount of future growth. Certainly, if everyone we've talked about comes in, it would not accommodate that, but I would say 80%
Okay,
of our growth, yeah.
okay.
And we also talked, I mean, we'll talk to you at that time if it happens, but also the idea that part of the price of admission, so to speak, would be, more significant modifications if we got
Right.
to that point.
Okay, so this will be brought back after the preliminary,
Sure, we've had actual meetings with the Hesners.
what are they ballparking this?
Right, certainly when they come back and ballpark it, then we'll bring it back to you.
Yeah.
That's what we're waiting for.
Okay. All right, so right now you want what?
Well, just, it's $2,500. It's within my purchasing authority. I just wanted to alert you what we're doing, and it's, a modification of our building, and again, it's a little bit much in one sense, but it's fairly minor modifications. And Mayor, to answer your question, we really don't know quite yet until they take a look at, pop some ceiling tiles, look back, do the usual investigatory work, and then we'll know.
Okay, well, so be it. Any other comments or questions on this? If not, is there a motion to adjourn the board meeting and call it an evening?
Well, before we adjourn, this is probably not the appropriate point, but we've now had several meetings and with these, and we've kind of identified some problems, and/or is there a forum or something that we can go forward to, like trying to keep this last item? We're at page 104 or whatever, 140, and then we had to go back to page 8 or whatever, things like that for the summary to cover that, and that gets a little confusing.
Up at the top.
Whoa, we've got a page of notes. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you want to handle it, but
Well, we could do that. That's a good entree to a related subject. I talked to the mayor about it. Maybe we could have a session relatively soon on an off Tuesday. Maybe, what would it be, the 14th of February? Although we're getting close to budget needs also. But you all need to go through Open Meeting Act training and taking the test. That's state law, as you probably are all aware. We could do at the same time, have a forum discussing how to, my thought was, you would use these, or we could bring in some laptops. You'd go through that, and then Bob would be our group leader. You'd each individually have to answer the questions online, and I think we could do that, everyone together at a meeting. And then that would be a great time to talk about, gee, could we modify this and make this
I
different?
don't want to wait that long.
Oh.
If I may suggest and address, tell me if I'm wrong, that what he's saying is that a simple solution to this particular problem would be when the packet is put in for downloading.
Mhm.
You put the board meeting minutes and the board meeting agenda and summary together with the board information. Put the committee meeting agenda and summary with the committee meeting information. So you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning to get to your information.
Okay, so board agenda, the
Well,
summary
Is a separate-
information,
Yeah,
the detail.
that is
So
definitely a
you'd
solution.
separate it as two separate meetings.
yeah, some way that we can just keep trucking along as
Sure.
opposed to having to
going
keep
back.
bouncing back and forth, which we had
Okay.
to do, and/or, keep the summary as a separate document so that we could have that open, and then the board stuff,
Okay.
whatever. I'll let you
Yeah,
guys figure it out, but
So you can toggle between two
Right.
different,
something.
whole documents. I know.
Yeah, as opposed to
Yeah.
going
To
from
keep
page
together
8
as
to
a
140, back to
Okay.
page 7,
I know.
to
Right.
102, to blah, blah,
No,
blah.
no,
Well,
I
unless you
share
know,
your.
Well, the other thing would be what?
But in
You
the
also
right,
utilize this screen
The
that's
right-
in front of us?
Jim, the
I
right-hand
mean-
side up at the top, you press on
No,
that
because
little tag
then
thing,
someone would
and
have
then
to control
you can easily
that.
click where you want to
Yeah,
be.
But I'm
that's
saying
the
on a
difference.
presentation.
Not easily.
You shouldn't have,
Right.
Oh.
You know, on a presentation with,
Yeah.
we don't.
But then
No.
trustee Hebda might want to be looking at something, the nice thing about each having your own device is you jump around and you're reading something, maybe you're reading the next subject, not to suppose that, but,
If I could find it.
you've already decided on how you're going to vote on a subject and you're on to the next, and someone else wants to look at, wait a second, did I miss something on the last one?
Well, yeah, you
That-
don't want to go
that kind of
this.
thing. So that's why you have, but we can, that's a great idea, because I find that a challenge too,
Yeah, you're
jumping
going back and forth, and
all the
next thing you know, you
pages.
forgot what you're
Maybe
supposed to
what we could do is make maybe four distinct documents. The agenda, the summary, and then the materials, and then the committee of the whole, the face of it, the summary, and the materials. And make
Yeah.
those perhaps 6 documents.
Whatever,
and then
as a
highlight them,
grouping,
so
yeah,
that,
as a group.
because you may read the detail and then during the meeting not even want to refer to the detail because you've already read it, and just keep following along, as you mentioned, Trustee Williams,
But
kind of
sometimes
bouncing
you do,
along.
like I made notes on the summary,
Mhm.
and then I couldn't go back and find it, because I kept
Right.
losing the darn thing, so I.
Right, I keep my notes on the face page, because to try to find them on page 54,
Yeah.
you know, it just would, you're right, it would drive you nuts.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
already there anyway, so.
We'll work on it.
If it's that important.
Well, I
But,
read that
but
there
on the
was.
other subject,
Yeah,
the
that's
Open Meetings Act, give that some thought. That would take, probably, Bob, some quality time, right? Maybe 2 to 3 hours?
I would say 2 to 2.5 hours would probably be moving pretty well. But it all has to be done. We've got a year to do it, but the sooner the better,
Yeah.
is my feeling.
All right, and last but not least, you know, before we officially adjourn, I just want to say that I hope that Senator Kirk gets better.
Yes.
It's a shame he had a stroke, and certainly, you know, I can say my prayers are going out to him. He's getting better, but I just, people are, I'm sure, well aware of this, you know.
Amen.
Yeah, and then condolences to Chuck Kaminga and the death of
And his mother.
his mother.
Yes.
And then we had Officer
Officer Berryhill, his wife died.
Sharon.
Sharon.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Passed away, so, you know, those are unfortunate circumstances and situations, and, you know, our deepest sympathy goes out to them. Hopefully, you know, the senator gets better. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second, roll call, please.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markward?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you and good night. All right.